Hello and welcome back to the Angela Makes podcast. I am Angela and I bring you this podcast from just outside Belfast in Northern Ireland. Today I have all knitting. I have been concentrating a lot on my knitting in the last 2 weeks. Taking a slightly different tack again, slightly different way of approaching my knitting. And I wanted to get a lot of the things that I had started finished. So there was lots of bits and pieces sitting about that I needed to finish. It was maybe that I had one sock and I needed the second sock done, or I had started shawls and hadn't finished them. So I have quite a few finished objects and only 2 whips to talk about. And then I have an update on my sock blockers. So let's get started and talk about the finished objects. So the first finished object is the one that I'm wearing, and this is the Uptown Tee by Tori U. So I have talked about this in previous podcasts. It is basically a raglan sweater, but it has these lovely sleeves, cap sleeves on them. I knit this using Molten Yarns Oddball. So I had 3 skeins. I had used most of one of them for my Rostrevor Shawl by Brenda Brayfield, but I needed the rest of that to get this to the length that I wanted it. So 2 is enough to take you to the length in the pattern, which I believe was 11.25 inches was the suggestion, so that's what the yardage was worked out at, but I wanted mine at 13. So as usual, I will put a little bit of a video in to let you see me standing up and wearing it. The only other change that I made in this pattern was that the bind off at the bottom was an I-cord bind off, and I did the I-cord bind off, but it was just rolling up, and I thought even if I block that, I think that's still going to roll and it's going to annoy me. So I did the I-cord bind off in the sleeve and it's absolutely perfect. I just didn't like it on the bottom. I don't know whether it sits better here because we have the lace, and on the bottom it's just on the stockinette. But I took it back out again, put all the stitches back on the needles and did a 2x2 bind off, and I much prefer it. I then went up a needle and just did a regular cast off, and I'm really happy with that. I'm not sure, so I didn't helical knit because these are hand-dyed yarns. I didn't helical knit, and I do think there is a little bit of difference, but there is also, so this bit here that looks paler that's all one skein. I didn't change to down here, so I think there were differences because it's hand dyed. When I look at it in the mirror, it really doesn't annoy me, and typically things like that would if I see an automatic change in the colour. But with this one, I think because it's more variegated, and it's not a solid colour as such, it doesn't annoy me, and I do like it. The sleeves, once you pick up for the sleeves, you can just bind off. I didn't want to do that, so I did another 6 repeats and then I bound off. So if you have the pattern, you'll understand what I mean by that, but I did another 6 repeats. So it gave me about another 2 inches on the sleeve. So rather than it sitting up here, I just have enough down over my the top of my arm, which is what I wanted. And overall, I am happy. Now, sorry, I should say that is also in the pattern that you can continue that for as long as you want to. So you can either bind off, or if you've enough yarn, you can keep the sleeves going for a certain length of time. The neckline, when you cast it on, it's more, you're just doing a few rows of stockinette. I need to check the pattern. I think you're using the same needle throughout, so you don't even change your needle. So the few rows of stockinette, it just gives this tiny roll, but it's absolutely perfect. It's just really lovely. What else have I to say about this? I didn't change anything else. I think I had pointed out previously, I've made a mistake which I didn't fix. I made myself a ginger nut matcha. I got the Bird and Blend trial pack of all the different flavours, and this one's really lovely. And I should also say I took a pause there because in the UK they sent out one of the test alerts on your phone, so there was an awful lot of blaring going on there, so I'm gonna cut that out. You don't need to hear that. So yeah, I had made a mistake. I had knit two together rather than slip knit, or the other way around. So the only thing I changed was the length and the cast off. Everything else was as pattern. I knit the 42 inch, I want to say. It's in one of my previous podcasts, which gives me just about 2 inches the entire way around, and as a t-shirt I am totally happy with that. There's enough. I don't like anything too tight across my tummy, and this is perfect. I really like the fit of this. I think I had said when I was comparing it, when it was a whip to the Summer Sorrel, the Summer Sorrel I had chosen the size up because I had enough yarn to do that. This one I was trying to be a little bit more conservative because of the yarn that I had, and I was a little bit concerned with that I would have enough positive ease, but I absolutely do. And I'm totally happy with the fit of this. So as I say, just over 2 skeins for this. However, that's because I did the longer length. 2 would have been perfectly okay if I had have kept the length at 11.25 and I hadn't have done the extra bit on the sleeves. 2 would have been perfect. So that gets you up to that size of sweater on 2 skeins. So that's this one. I think I will do it again. I would love it in a really bright summer colour. I don't think I would do it in cotton. As you know, if you've watched my previous podcasts, I've kind of fallen out with cotton, and I don't like the stitch definition. Now, when I did look at this, when I'd finished it, I suppose my knitting could have been slightly more even. However, in the blocking process, this definitely blocks out so much better than cotton does. So it's a little bit more forgiving. Now, as I got down toward the bottom, I have been really trying to intentionally think about my tension to try and get a much more consistent knit. I actually think the more that I have been knitting, the more inconsistent I've got. And that's probably because when you get into a rhythm of knitting and you're watching TV, you just forget what you're doing, and you're not being mindful of your tension. So yeah, as I said, love this, will definitely knit it again, but probably not until next spring maybe. I also have my Summer Sorrel I haven't been knitting on in the last couple of weeks because I've sort of thought, well, I'm not going to wear this and the Summer Sorrel, because even today, as you see, I've moved location because this is much brighter. And we're just really dull. It has rained all day, it's been really windy, and we're only at the 7th of September. So yeah, I think I need to move into my winter knits. I will keep going back to the Summer Sorrel, and I will have it finished for spring, but I know I'm not going to be wearing it right now. So the next thing that I finished, I had been working on this. So this is another Brenda Brayfield shawl, and this is the Rostrevor. So I had shown this previously, and I absolutely love her stitch patterns. She has just brought out another one there on Friday, the Enniskillen shawl. And if you take a look at it again, it's just stunning the way that she brings her patterns together. Now, there's a bit more lace work in that one, but having a read through the pattern, it's completely completely approachable, completely achievable, and it's a beautiful shawl. The idea with these, so they're one skein shawls. This particular one I used Drops Flora because I had some left, but I had 2 and a bit balls, so I used as much of that as I could. And what I did, she'll talk you through it in the pattern, but what I did was to extend the center section. Now I've only steam blocked this, but I don't like wet blocking Drops Flora. I've had issues in the past with Drops Flora where it has completely shrunk. So I'm always a little bit wary of, because I tend to wet block and then forget that I've put it in and then leave it to the next morning. So I have just steam blocked this. But yes, I did a good few extra repeats. I think I did 3 or 4 extra repeats in the center. And what that does is to give me a 84 inch, so as you can see, I actually think if I was to pull this up a little bit, I could, so you could wrap that, if it was a really cold day, you could wrap that round twice, or you can leave it and knot it as I tend to do, and then fix this so that it's sitting out. But it was 84 inches in wingspan and 10 inches in the depth at the center. But I love this pink. I love the stitch. It is just really, really lovely, the pattern on this. And you do get into a routine. Because I was lifting it up and setting it down, when I lifted it back up, I did have to read through the instructions, but 1 repeat, and then I knew what I was doing and I could keep going. So I really, really enjoyed this, and I could read it easily, but it may be one of those patterns where some people may just need the pattern sitting beside them, and others the pattern makes sense, but it's so easy to follow. Brenda's instructions they're all in tables. You're taken through what your stitch count should be at each pattern repeat. You're taken through line by line and handheld the entire way through. So they're beautiful, beautiful patterns and really nice and easy to follow. So I finished that one as well. I think when I looked, I had started it in April. So it's one that I've just picked up and set back down again, and I thought, right, I'm going to finish this one because I had quite a few bits and pieces of shawls on the go. And the Drops Flora is really soft, it's really lovely and funny. Even a few people had commented, I posted this on Instagram during the week, and a few people had commented to say that it looked squishy, and I think that's really nice whenever you know that a yarn looks squishy, because the Drops Flora, I think when I bought that, it was £2.40 sterling. So £4.80, and probably it was maybe about another half ball. About £6 maybe at an absolute maximum in terms of yarn, not in terms of time for knitting, but in terms of yarn. It's the alpaca wool mix, and it's a lovely gift if you're going to gift something like that, especially if you don't know if the person you're gifting it to knows how to wash it, or you're not as worried as some of the hand dyed yarns. But yeah, I can't say enough about this particular pattern. I absolutely love it. And that's it finished. So that's my Rostrevor Shawl by Brenda Brayfield. As usual, I will link all of these down below so that you can go and have a look at them. So then last year, I had joined, so last August, I think it was August, I had joined in with Natalie, Nitty Natty, or Love and Stitches, her sock week. And I had done quite a number of socks in that particular week. One of the ones, the theme last year was the seaside or the beach or something like that. I decided to do the Rockpool Socks. So I had done these socks as the test knit. The test knit, I had used yarn I had here at home, but Giddy Aunt Yarn, which as you know is based here in Northern Ireland, now inspiring hand-dyed yarns, had created a kit for this particular sock, and I bought the kit from Giddy Aunt Yarn. So the test knit was finished, and then I decided, because it was a seaside theme and because these were the Rockpool socks, I would use up the kit that I had got and knit a sock for part of that sock week. So this is the sock. Lots of different patterns. The colours are gorgeous, but as you know, I love the Giddy Aunt yarn. And I now have 2 socks. The pattern is by Jo of Hardy Barn Designs. And this isn't stranded colour work. So this is mosaic knitting. So each row you are only using 1 yarn. So you're not carrying the yarn. You finish that row, you pick up the next colour and you go. So this section is 2 colours, this section is 2 colours, and so on and so forth. Then your toe and your heel in 1 colour, and the cuff, which is a rolled cuff. So you cast on, you knit until the desired length, desired length or the length that it says in the pattern. And it does create that beautiful roll at the top of the socks, which I think, given the theme of the sock, is actually, it's a really nice feature on the sock. The heel is the heel flap and gusset, so the slip stitch heel, and yeah, so, and the toe's the standard toe. Now, I'll put the picture up of the sock. So they have a lot more repeats. My foot is a UK size 5, and the sock, so I've said before, I use the Kate Atherley measurements, and for my foot size she suggests 22 centimetres. So this is where in socks I change to centimetres, because I find it easier to measure. So from the heel to just before you will start the toe is is not. The whole thing should be 22, minus the 5 centimetres of your toe. So I need it to be 17. That's correct. So from here to here I need to be 17. Because I wanted to get the pattern repeat in, this is actually a little bit longer than 17 now, not by much, a couple of millimetres. But what it does mean is that when I looked at the sock in the pattern and I like this centre repeat, I don't get another one. So I don't get another one of these. I suppose, well, if I'd have known that before I started, I could have done it the other way around. I would have had plenty of yarn to do that. But that's just something, if you're going to attempt this pattern, to be mindful of, that depending on the length, depending on the length of your foot, that will change how many repeats you can do, because each 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is about 15 rows. So I know that I typically knit between 30 and 40 rows. It again depends on how tight or how loose my knitting is. It depends on how many stitches. Sometimes I pick up an extra stitch along the gusset, which then means I don't end up knitting. So when I say 30 to 40 rows, I mean from the end of the gusset decreases, 30 to 40 rows this way. So as I say, depending on if you know those number of rows, then you will know what adjustments you need to do. You maybe need to do a few extra rows here of this paler green, or you'll maybe do an extra couple of rows before going in, or do it in the sock or the toe colour. But that's just something to be mindful of that I noticed. The other thing is that this is bigger. So it's a 64 stitch sock, and it is bigger than if I was just knitting a vanilla sock. I don't know why. The mosaic knitting, your slip stitches, so you are, it's no tighter. If anything, I would have expected it to be tighter because of the slip stitches, but it's not. It's looser. Now, it still fits. It's still lovely. I do like the socks, but I'm just pointing out in terms of this pattern some of the things to be mindful of. It was really fun. The mosaic knitting, if you don't like stranded colour work, this definitely gives you an alternative to be able to create a lovely design on a sock without that stranded colour work and without having to carry the yarn. You do end up with quite a lot of ends to stitch in. I'm going to turn it inside out. I still don't think it's too bad, even on the inside. I have sewn in all the ends, but a lot, your beginning of round is in the middle of the heel, if that makes sense. So a lot of my ends are here. I don't feel them on the sole of my foot. But yeah, so they are the Rockpool Socks by Hardy Barn Designs. I enjoyed these. I enjoyed the mosaic knitting. The couple of things to be mindful of is the number of repeats, because you can't really alter the number of rows in each of the pattern designs. So if you know to begin with what you would normally knit a vanilla sock, how many rows after the gusset decreases, then that will allow you to alter it. Typically, by the time you've done this first pattern repeat, you've finished the gusset decreases. Maybe not for the larger size. You might need to go into this second one, but for the two smaller sizes, I think there's four or five sizes, you would have finished your gusset decreases. So they are my finished socks, and even though I did them a year apart, there is a little bit of difference in the width, but yeah, sometimes when I do socks that far apart, they're completely different. It looks like my knitting tension has changed massively. So there we go, that's those ones. The next thing that I did was I wanted a quick project. I had a few workshops to do for work, and I find it hard to just sit and listen to video. I didn't really need to take notes in this one. It was like a refresher course, but I needed to do it. So I cast on another hat. I had ordered the yarn from Winnie's Yarn, which is Crochet Knit Love by Jo on Instagram. She used to have a podcast, but she hasn't podcasted in a while, but there are a few previous episodes there. And I got yarn from her. So this was the DK, and this was the grape colourway. This light is blowing out on me. That's a bit... yeah, that's better. It is quite dark. There's quite a glow coming there. And this, I have already done, this is my second time doing this pattern. So this is the Tin Can Knits Snowglobe pattern. I have bought this and I have brought it into their Tin Can Knits app. So I selected my yarn, I selected the size, and it literally then takes all of the other sizes out of the way, and you can literally just follow this through. I did need to follow the chart for the cables. With the cables, I didn't use a cable needle. I was able to just pinch and hold. I'm not sure if that's the right technical term, but I was able to pinch and hold either to the front or the back because it was 2 stitches. It was a 2-stitch cable. And I absolutely love this. I will put it on. So I had done this for my daughter last January in Disney. I had got yarn and done her, it was a colourway that reminded us of one of the Disney films because it was called Embers. And we had done, I knit it in Disney and she wore it for the last day. Now hers is slightly shorter, but I did do this. It covers my ears. There's no turn up, but I do love the pom-pom. This is a Trimmet pom-pom. And I thought that it went really lovely with my Rostrevor. I thought the grape, I don't really like completely matching. So I thought the pink of the pom-pom and the pink of this was lovely, and something that I would definitely be able to pair together. So when I saw the two yarns sitting side by side, I was even more happy. But yeah, that's the Snowglobe Hat by Tin Can Knits, and it's done in the Winnie's yarn by Crochet Knit Love by Jo, and I just think it's beautiful. It's that kind of purpley grapey colour is one of my favourite colours. Also, this took 46 grams. I had bought a 100-gram skein. What is my hair doing when I've taken that off? I bought a 100-gram skein, so I'm going to get another hat, another Snowglobe hat out, and then I can gift it. But yeah, I love the design on that, and it was really quick. I had it done, I had a workshop over 2 days, and I had this done over the 2 days. The Trimmets pom-poms come with a bow, so I've just threaded them through and tied it, which means I can take it off and wash this. And I have already blocked this, so it's all blocked. So that was another finished knit, which you haven't seen before. Well, you have seen, but not in this colourway. And absolutely love it. Really, really like it. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4th finished object. So let's go on to my last one. The last one I decided, which I'd shown you the last time, was the Summer Lee Cuff Club Volume 2. So it had come out in August and I decided to sign up for it again. And it's going to be cables and laces and a little bit of colour work and just a bit of a mix this year from reading up on it. August's pattern was like a cable on the cuff. And then, so this is on my sock blockers. However, I'd really have needed the longer one, but I need to print myself one off. This is about 11 centimetres in length. These are still a little bit wet because I literally just finished it last night and soaked them. So I have them all in the sock blockers at the minute. This colourway is Blue Fern Yarns. Gladioli? I'll put it on screen. I think it's Gladioli, which I got at Big Flock in Bristol, and I paired it with a Drops Fable. Again, I will put the colour. I think it's just the red, but I'll put the colour below. The standard, so with Summerly Knit Cuff Club, you get a base pattern, and then each month you get a cuff pattern. Now, what you can do is to continue that cable the whole way down if you wanted. You could add in stripes. There's a multitude of things that you can do. As you build up the patterns, then you can mix and match them. And September's is also a cable at the top, but it's slightly broader. And it's lovely too. The idea behind these first few patterns, because I was watching her YouTube podcast, was that she could use some of her hand-dyed yarns. She has always said that whenever she is knitting socks, if she uses the hand-dyed yarn with a bit of lace or a bit of colour work, she feels that the lace and the colour work gets lost, so she prefers to use her solid colours. But for these, then she can make use of her beautiful hand-dyed yarns and pair it with plain colours. Now you could continue, you could just do a colour, a solid colour for the cable, and then do your vanilla sock with the toe and the heel in your variegated yarn. But I thought it was quite nice to add the toe and the heel in the red of the Drops Fable. So these are a finished pair. I do really like Summerlee's patterns. They're easy to follow. As I'd said in my last podcast, what I hadn't done was to read the notes on not using a cable needle to do the cable. And I realised it on my last cable row in the first sock. So I used that throughout the second sock, and it was much easier than a cable needle, especially on a 2.25, which is what I use for my socks. I also do my socks on a circular, 9-inch circular. So the cable needle was a pain. The needles were just too small. So this allowed me to do this beautiful cuff. It is blown out. It is not that kind of fire engine red. But I really like these. Really like these socks. They're going to my daughter because she's already claimed them. Apparently she doesn't have enough for winter. But I happily give them to her because she wears them all the time. All the time. So they are the Summerlee Cuff Club Volume 2 August pattern. If you go on, you can still buy the pattern, so you pay one price. I'm not sure what the price is at the minute. There was a reduction in August, or for the first couple of weeks. Anyway, I think it's up to full price, but even at full price, you're getting a pattern every single month, sometimes 2 patterns in a month, and it just drops in your inbox. You don't pay anything extra. It's not a subscription. You can also still buy Volume 1. So if you go back and have a look at Volume 1, if you purchase it, you will get all of the 12 months dropping in your inbox at the one time. So I do highly recommend them. I absolutely love them. There's still a few from the first volume that I want to do that I haven't done. My daughter also went into my stash last night and set out. So she really liked February's. But they're tiny bit small. Her feet have grown. And she said, I need these because they're my absolute faves. So she went into my stash last night to see if she could find almost the same colour for each of those. So that one is one on my list. So I'll be going back to do February of Volume 1. But that's where we're at with those. So that's those finished. So 5 finished objects, although not fully started. I had obviously been working on this. I'd been working on the Rostrevor from April, as I said. I'd been working on the Rockpool Socks from last August. And then the other socks were only from this August, but they were vanilla. So I had a little bit of time to work on those. So 2 whips that I'm going to go through. The first is the test knit that I am doing for Twin Set and Pearl, and it is the Joanna Shawl. So I had shown you the start of this the last time. I have just finished section 5, so only 2 more sections to go, and it's all tangled. So you can see the length of this already. This is going to be a lovely long shawl. So I keep dropping yarn. I am doing this in Giddy Aunt yarn colourway. So this is their Stingy Jack, I think. And yes, I will have enough to finish it. And then my cashmere that I got from AliExpress. I love this. It is so, so soft. And it comes with the anti-pilling yarn, which I just hold double with it. So they are the colours. Joe has just extended the test knit deadline by about a week, so I think we have now until the 20-something, maybe the end of September, or just before it, 27th, 28th of September. So I will have that finished. Whenever that comes out, there will be the shawl and there will be a cowl pattern. The shawl, you need 100 grams of your main colour of a 4-ply yarn and 100 grams of your contrast colour, again in a 4-ply yarn. So you will get the full shawl out of the 200 grams. The pattern is really easy to follow. It's a 2-row repeat essentially. Slightly, not slightly different, but you have to pay attention to your increases and where your increases are. But this is where I make use of, now at the minute, these are marking each of the sections so that I can kind of measure and see where I'm at. But I'm on the decreases, and this ice cream stitch marker, or is it a latte stitch marker, is marking where my decrease is so that I can count which row my next decrease is on, and that keeps me right. So I would recommend using that type of stitch marker just to be able to highlight where, because each section, either the increases or the decreases are at a different rate. So this just allows you to keep track a little bit easier. And I do that with all of Jo's patterns, and have done. You've seen all of the ones that I've done. I would do that quite a bit. So as I said, this is due to be released at the start of October. I am really enjoying this pattern. Something else that I think is going to work. So I think I'm going to be able to pair it up with my Snowglobe Hat because it's picking out the purple in the yarn. I think that's going to be lovely. I think it's going to be absolutely glorious. So without even realising, again, this was just sitting beside this whenever I was working on the two, and I thought, oh, that's going to match. So without intentionally planning that, I have a hat that will match my Rostrevor and my Joanna Shawl. So that might be my next Disney outfit because we're going in the winter again. Final whip. That's everything I wanted to say about the Joanna, wasn't it? Yeah. Final whip that I have brought back into rotation is my NYX. Now I've only done another inch on the body. This is a Crayabea or Rebecca Clow. I am doing this in the Stylecraft Grace, which is 85% premium acrylic, 10% mohair, 5% wool, and there's 295 meters per 100 grams. It says it's Aran weight, but 295 meters per 100 grams is more of a sport weight. I am getting gauge with this, and I am using the 4mm needles. I am using the colour Forest, which is the dark green, and Long Grass, which is the kind of lime colour. And as I am on the body, and as I say, I've done another 1.5 inches, I think, since I was last working on it. So as I say, what I've done is to put the Summer Sorrel on a bit of a hold, and I've brought this back into rotation because I know I'm going to need this very soon, where I put this on hold over the summer to work on some of the summer knits. So I'm going to continue in the Forest colourway. I hope to get the length out of it that I need. When I just talked about this the last time, I had started to knit the sleeve because I thought this was going to be a little bit tight, but I've tried it on again there as I was starting it, and I'm more than happy with where I'm at. So I will then continue working on that sleeve. I can't decide, so I'd put this up, and a few people had commented really kindly to say I didn't know whether to maybe do this zigzag at the bottom of the sleeve, but someone else had said, what about the 1x1 colour on your ribbing, which could be really pretty as well. So I haven't quite decided. I think I'll see how much yarn I have left. But I think I might add the long grass back into the end of the sleeves. So watch this space. But this particular sweater you can do in all over colour work, or there's one just to do the chart at the top, and I chose just to do the chart at the top, and I am glad that I did. So that is my NYX sweater in Stylecraft Grace, and hopefully that will be a finished object soon, so that I can wear it in the winter. So that's what I've been working on the last couple of weeks. I haven't done any sewing or cross stitch or embroidery. I have been concentrating fully on my knitting. As you know, I have my sock blockers. I have these in my Etsy shop, which again is always linked below. And you can take off the toe and put on, so that one's 37 to 38. Put on your other sizes and create a sock blocker of the length that you need. A few people, when they had bought them initially, had said they didn't, they would have preferred a longer leg. And then what we did was to add an extension for the longer leg. And what I had said when I went through it at that point was that I would bring in an autumn winter colour, which I have now done. And this is the autumn winter colour. I love this olive green in the PLA. So I went on and had a bit of a look. They did have orange, but it was really bright orange. I'd liked a little bit more of like a moody burnt orange, but it was really bright. So I decided on the olive green. I am going to upload this to Etsy so that you can pick this colour. I will add, I'm hoping to get the pictures done tonight, but if not, I will add the colour in and put one picture on each of the things so that you can see it. So this is the fixed one. So this was our original design, and it's the fixed one. So the other thing, this was the longer one that we did. So you can make it the short length, or you can take the adapter off and add in. So you can add in the extension to make the leg longer, and this will, if I show you my Cuff Club sock, you'll see that it's much better fit on this particular. So I could, as I said, I could just have done with a slightly longer length, and this gives me it. So that is the olive green sock blocker. And the only thing that's changed is the colour. But I did say I would bring you a more autumny colour. So it will be available in the long, in the fixed, and in the sock ruler. So if you want it, head on over and get it in the Etsy store. So that's about it for me. My intention over the next couple of weeks is the NYX sweater, finish the test knit for Joe, and I would like to do a couple of Halloween things. So I always have my Halloween crochet pumpkins. I would like to add a few to the basket, and I would like to add a few different colours so that I can put them in another room in the house as well. So I might be doing a few pumpkins. I do have a free pumpkin pattern on my Ravelry store, which I use, and you can basically adapt it to whatever size of pumpkin that you need. But if you crochet, that is over there on my Ravelry, and as I say, it is free. I also have a YouTube video, I think. I think I have the YouTube video as well, which steps you through making it if you're a more visual learner and prefer to do that there. You can watch it on there as well. So I hope whatever you're doing over the next couple of weeks, you have a restful, peaceful time. You enjoy your crafting, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. See you then.